Hey guys, you're listening to Way Out Radio. Welcome to the show and thank you for joining us today. A very special treat for you now. Canadian punks Belvedere, formed in Calgary and Edmonton in 1995. They've played almost 2,000 shows across 35 countries in the past 25 years. They've been on the Warped Tour. They've hung out with the best and they've been like all over. You'll remember them from MTV. You know, they've just done so much stuff. So we're really honored and privileged to have Steve on the show today. He's the lead singer and founder of the band. And yeah, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Paula. Thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Cool. So initially you was like a trio, right? You got four
Yeah,
members.
that's right. Yeah, I started the band in 95 and we were a trio until I guess 96, maybe 97. And then Scott joined the band and we were a four-piece, two guitars. So I got to hand off some of the guitar duties and then the guitaring got much better.
Did it help you just to become like be more of a front man? Because when you're in a three-piece, like you got to really graft. Like everyone's got to be top on their instrument, haven't they? And then if you're freed up from the guitar a bit, you can interact with the audience more.
Yeah, in some respects, for sure. I mean, the band progressed. We progressed quite a bit, and we became a lot different band now than when we started. But yeah, definitely the guitar playing got a lot more elaborate, and it should have been easier. But then the music got so much more difficult. So now I actually have to. I find that I'm just trying to keep up with everybody while I'm trying to sing on top of it too. So I probably have to play more now than I did back then.
And you guys are known for like being a seriously fast band. I mean, can you tell us like what's your fastest song?
I I don't know. I don't know because because you're now when you go into recording, you go to record, and all the beats per minute, because you're doing things with a click track or you're trying to convey back and forth. Back then we just kind of played really fast and a lot of it was out of time probably. Actually I know some of it was. So I mean, we probably clock 230, 250 in some of that older stuff, which is
That's crazy.
tough to keep up. But
Yeah.
we have one song on the new record that's called Too Fast, Too Furious, and that's about 240, and that's about as comfortable of a speed I like to. I don't like to go much quicker than that. So it sometimes isn't all about how fast can you go. It's about like how exciting can you make the song and still stay kind of in the pocket and make it still kind of groove as well.
Yeah.
That's sort of always the trick with us. So.
Yeah, amazing. So what do people usually do at your shows? I mean, like I know you guys are really well known for your mosh pits and just like walls of death and things like that. Like what are some of the maddest things you've seen that your fans do at shows?
I don't think we've had too many walls of death. I mean, definitely the circle pit is our specialty. And actually, I say it's not really our specialty; it's our fans' specialty. So, I would say that some of the quicker sort of minute and a half songs where people they know it's a short song, so it's like let's give her shit and circle pit, and we love seeing that. I think it's good too that people kind of know the music a little bit and know that it's only a minute because most of our fans are are in our 30s and 40s, and you probably only have a minute to really go for it. And then you need to take a break, sit at the back,
Yeah, full
think
on
about it,
workout.
think about it. Yeah.
Excellent. So the band have just released a new song, Elephant March, part of
Hmm.
their forthcoming sixth album,
Yeah.
Hindsight in the Sixth Sense. Um,
Hmm.
Hindsight is the Sixth Sense, out May the 14th
You got
on,
it.
and over in the UK it's out on Lockjaw Records, and then it's on a different label in America. But yeah, tell us
Hmm.
about Elephant March because there's kind of a cool story behind that idea.
Yeah. So yeah, this Hindsight is the Sixth Sense is coming out on Lockjaw Records in the UK and Europe, and Thousand Islands Records in North America. So Elephant March was kind of a fun song. It's a little different than some of the stuff we've done before. Dan actually came in with the original riff, and it was a bit of a we kind of just all worked on it together. Right up to when we went to the studio, we were refining, and I was editing and changing arrangements and all that. But I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I think where our first single, Good Grief Retreat, was a little more straightforward. I think this one, whether it was the riff or sort of the style of the song, I think maybe threw people for a bit of a curveball. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. Thanks for asking about it.
Yeah, no worries. And yeah, Good Grief Retreat is the one that fans will have heard a bit of, and also Elephant March on the album. But what else are you looking forward to? Like, what are some of the tracks that you just can't wait for people to hear?
Well, so next week we're going to be releasing Camera Obscura, which is a song. One was probably the first song I wrote for the record, and that one took a while. You know, you just I really wanted to make that a good tune, and so we went through a few editing processes throughout the way. And yeah, I mean, it's that's probably the next single coming out, and then after that, there is yeah, then the record comes out May 14th, and we'll have another sort of single that they'll pop out, one that's called Comrade, which Roger from Less Than Jake sings on as well. So yeah, I'm excited for all that, and I'm excited to get out and get touring on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's on the track listing. It seems like a bit of a camera theme with a few of them. You got like the Retina, Camera Obscura, Chromatic, but then you just got like Too Fast, Too Furious, which is like more of a gangster sounding tune. Like, tell us about that one.
You know, a lot of these titles don't necessarily reflect the lyrical content. I mean, as you know, with most you know, a lot of bands sort of have these working titles that kind of go along, you know, throughout the process, and then usually during recording time, you sort of pick these what you hope are profound titles, but a lot of the time it's just like, oh well, it was called Too Fast, Too Furious, so that's what we're going to call it. You know, Casey
Yeah.
originally wrote the song. It was 260 beats a minute. We said, hang on in there, buddy, slow her down a little bit to 240. Still called Too Fast, Too Furious, just maybe not as fast and as furious.
Yeah. Oh, wicked. Cool. So you've got two newer members in the band, Dan Woolwich on guitar, Ryan Mumby on bass. Tell us a bit about what they've brought to the new record.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a change here in the last year and a half or so. We were, you know, initially we were just looking for, you know, two guys to jump in, two people to jump in and play, and we had a bunch of tours, you know, sort of lined up. As time went on, one of the big um, reasons that they sort of made the cut and made it in the band was because of their ability to write. So I love collaborating. I've never been sort of a this is an album and this is the album you're going to play. I always like to, you know, it's got to be a band thing for me. And you know, so you know, Dan sort of joined fairly early on, um, and then Ryan, we knew Ryan from before, and he was sort of at the top of the list. But then he had moved to Toronto, which is about, you know, 3,000 miles away from us, or whatever. And so we were we kind of put out the word that we were looking for a bass player, and then some people tried out. Actually, a lot of people tried out, and Ryan never left the top of the list. So we said, okay, well, you know, you're the guy, so I guess we'll make it work with you being in Toronto. And he's from Calgary, and he works for a company that has offices in both, so he can occasionally come back and forth to practice. But yeah, really excited to have them. They both bring a lot to the table. Really good people, good players, and they you know, contributing songwriters as well.
Wicked, wicked. Okay, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about like back in the day. I know you guys were on the Warp Tour, and like one of my friends' bands went on the Warp Tour, like the last one, and
Mhm.
and apparently it was like really hard graft. So like I wanted to know like what it was like for you, and just give us like an insight into what your day to day life was like on the Warp Tour.
So yeah, we started there. I think our first year was in 2000, and we did probably 3 or 4 years of the Warp Tour, different parts. So we do, you know, 3 shows one year. We do, you know, we do the Eastern Seaboard and do 8, 10 shows the next year, and then we did some more in Ontario and Quebec afterwards. So most years it was usually only 3 or 4, and then we had kind of a bigger run in 2001 in the States. I mean, the Warp Tour was awesome. It was fun. It was grueling. You know, for a lot of the bigger bands that were on the whole thing, they were on buses. They were splitting buses. For a lot of us smaller bands, we were touring in bands, and so you know, which is obviously what we're used to. But when you do the Warp Tour, it's a different thing than just going to a club show, because you have to get there at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. You go to production, you get your time slot, you get your tickets, and then you're off. You know, you're off, right? You set up your merch. Doors open at noon, and you start, you know, trying to push merch to people, right? And
Wow.
especially for, you know, for a small band like us, you know, we're fighting for everything, right? So, you know, just trying to get people to watch us because Rancid's playing on the big stage next to us, or Bad Religion or something. And so it's quite often the smaller bands sometimes get put up against those bands. So, even though there is thousands of people there, a lot of them are at the main stages. So, they were big days, and a lot of the times you'd load out of there at 8, 10, midnight, and then you drive. The routing was always like, they were fairly, none of them were all that close. So, I mean, then you drive overnight 6 to 8 hours. You'd get
Jeez.
there and you'd send while everybody's sleeping, whoever happened to be tour manager that day, which is usually me. So I usually had to go into the production office and start the day over again. And so it was grueling. And of course, in a lot of the southern states, it's 110, 120 degrees at times, right? So it can be ripping hot, and even when it's only 90 or 100 in the east and it's super humid, they can be pretty long, grueling days. So it was fun. It was a good chance for a young band like us to really get going in the States, but it would be hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard for a lot of people to do. We're pretty used to grueling tours anyways, so I think we were conditioned for it. But even a band like us, after a week, it was like, whoa, like that's a long week.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Mm.
takes like a few years off you. Sounds like really intense.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know you go like way back with Bad Religion and Nofx, and originally when you started the band, those were the kind of bands that you were into and you liked. So tell us about how your relationship with them has developed over the years.
Well, yeah, we did tour with Bad Religion in '99 across Canada, and we did some dates afterwards with them. NoFX, we'd sort of seen on the Warp tours and all these other festivals and stuff. We didn't actually play actual shows with them, I think, until maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Wow,
We did
that's
we
crazy.
yeah, we did a show with them in France, and then we did a bunch of stuff with them here in Western Canada. And yeah, it was. I mean, these are bands I grew up with, and bands I still really love, and so it's always awesome to occasionally play with bands like that. We're kind of we're still, I consider, a fairly small band, and we kind of do the sort of a couple hundred people in all these club shows. And so when we do these festivals and we do these bigger support tours, yeah, they're awesome. They're great.
Wicked. So you said a bit earlier about, the grueling tours and you guys like really earned your stripes doing that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm sure things have changed a lot for you now, but tell us a little bit about, sleeping on the fans' floors and that kind of era.
Yeah, I had a point where where I came home after tours and I would sleep beside my bed on the floor for a couple of days just to acclimatize back to a real bed. I joke, but it's actually like it's kind of true. And yeah, so
Yeah.
we did a lot of US touring in the late 90s and early 2000s, and we did do a 90 show 100-day tour in September.
Wow.
God, was it 99? I think it was 99. So we left in September and we came back for Christmas break. Like that's how it was, all of Canada. And I, we played the majority of the lower 48 states, and every little town that would have us. A lot of basement shows, people would buy a keg of beer and 20 of their friends would show up and everybody get wasted and pass out in the basement. It was, and then repeat, right? So,
Yeah.
and a lot of the times the van was the most comfortable place to stay that night. So I did sleep in the van more at times than not in the early days. And for us, it was just us proving ourselves. Just you play for 20 people and hopefully one or two buy a CD and maybe 30 people show up next time, right? So we did that for 100 days straight, and we didn't come back the same people after that. I don't know if for better or for worse, but we definitely there was some high points and some low points for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you were like so seriously like DIY for so long. And I mean, you still are now, but I mean, what was it like when you got to that point where you were like making these super professional music videos and
Mhm.
stuff like that, when you had like, you're bringing in actors and you were on like TV and
Yeah.
stuff? That must have been a culture shock.
Yeah, but like we've never had like a big rush. You know what I mean? Like there hasn't been the big growth in the band. It's always been like these baby steps along the way. And I think, and that's why in a lot of respects why our fans are so dedicated, because we've slept on their floor. We've sold them a CD. Like I handed it to you, we
Yeah.
we had a connection. It wasn't like you bought it at a record store or you saw us on a music video and next time we played 1,000 people were there. It never was like that for us. So it was DIY for us for a long time. But I think in a way that's why the band has stayed, as long as it has for over 25 years, is because there is a connection, and I just absolutely love it. So, um, But yeah, I mean, all that stuff, the videos on Much Music and all that stuff, that was always great, and we had good support along the way. But it was always just everybody kind of pushing everything along really slowly. And so when people ask me advice, like, oh, like younger bands, like, oh, how'd you do it? It's like, you're probably not going to like the answer to this. We didn't get on a big label and go on tour with whatever band. We've definitely had good support bands, but it was like little increments along the way. That doesn't downplay like how much help we've had from bands like Bad Religion and Mad Caddies and Pulley and Satanic Surfers, and they've all been awesome. Suicide Machines and stuff like that. They put us in front of people where we probably otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I wanted to ask you a bit about, we mentioned earlier that you've played like nearly 2,000 shows across 35 countries. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's like another testament to the hard graft of the band and what you've done. But I mean, what are some of the kind of more unusual places you ended up, and what are some of the like really great crowds you've experienced and, touring the world?
We've had awesome shows. It's really hard to narrow it down to a few. We just played a really big festival in Medellin, Colombia. We hadn't been there since '03 or '04, and it was huge. Probably one of the biggest shows we've ever played. Warped tours are really stand out in my memory. Montreal with Bad Religion. When we came, we split up for 7 years and came back in 2012. And when we came back, and at that time we were on main stage at Groezrock, and we ended up doing it again there in 2016. Those are both big shows. Those were really cool. And but unusual, we've played everything from outdoor stadiums to pretty much a broom closet. Like we've kind of played every little tiny small venue, most with especially like the frat houses and the house parties and all that. We've played in people's backyards. We've played you know in every outdoor different setting I think you can probably think of. But yeah, like the obviously no stages in a lot of those situations. So a lot of weird ones. It almost doesn't feel weird because we've played so many of them. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the debut album came out 1998,
Mhm.
Because No One Stopped Us, through Hourglass and 206 Records, and then
Yeah.
you spent like all of 1999 on tour, like with Bad Religion, Strung Out, and then Jumpstart Records released the follow-up album Angels Live in My Town in early 2000. So
Mhm.
you were working like seriously hard back then.
Yeah, and like Hourglass Records was my label, so I was like the Canadian label. So
Oh, right, okay.
we didn't have any labels, so we made one. Like
Oh, wow.
that's 206 Records was a nice small label from Seattle, and they kind of got us our start in the States. And then Jumpstart Records picked up the next record and we did a lot with it before we ended up going to the Union Label Group, and that's when things really started to kind of move along for us. Yeah, but
Yeah. And
a lot of
Jumpstart started in a dorm room like 25 years ago, right?
yeah, Jeremy. Yeah, that's right. And he's gone on to open up breweries, and I think he's still doing that now. And Jumpstart still puts out records. But yeah, he had a real heyday where he was really pushing bands, and he put on I think he put out some of the first Willem Scream albums as well before they went on.
Cool. So what was the next chapter like when you was with Union? What was the big changes?
The big thing was that they had their hands on a lot of tour opportunities. They had some records that were doing well. um, they had some contacts in Europe and the UK as I was starting to build my contacts in the UK. So that's where we kind of felt like we had some extra support. um,
Yeah.
we could kind of make these videos that ultimately got played on Much Music and MTV in Japan and stuff like that. But they were just always it just felt like all of a sudden we were able to get paired up. Like I think myself and another our US booking agent at the time hooked us up with the Mad Caddies tour, and then the label sort of helped put together a tour with us and Bigwig and the Planet Smashers. And that led to other things too, right? So they had contacts in Switzerland. So when we actually no, you know what, they helped Duncan hooked us up with a tour with Satanic Surfers, and we
Yeah.
went across Canada with them. And then Satanic Surfers brought us to Europe. They offered us 9 shows, and then the Union had some friends in Switzerland who hooked us up with some No Use for Name and Pulley shows. And then that kind of spiraled, and we made friends with all those bands. Ultimately, we went back to the UK and Europe with Pulley, I think a year and a half later. So yeah, it just, Union really kind of had, they really kind of made some bridges. They really helped us connect with some people, and that ultimately turned out, to some of my, best friends, and I still tour with a lot of those bands. I'm a booking agent, so I just brought, Satanic Surfers to Canada for the first time in 16 years, like a full Canadian tour, and then brought No Fun at All afterwards. So it's like, it's all
Excellent.
cyclical, right? So
Yeah, no fun at all. I love their new album. I spoke to them a little while ago, and I was just like, so cool, man, that they're still going.
yeah, they'd never done a full Canadian tour. And so
Yeah.
I picked them up in Vancouver, and we went right from Vancouver all the way to Quebec City. So, and that's a big country to do. But yeah, it was good, and it was fun for them. And I have them with Satanic Surfers. I'm going to bring them both over here again. It was supposed to be this year, but it's going to get pushed to next year. And I'm really looking forward to seeing those guys. They're both great.
Cool. So do you enjoy doing the booking agent side of things? Because I tried it a couple of times and I find it so hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different aspect of it. I've done a lot of booking for my band over the years, and my other band, This Is a Standoff. We've certainly had good agents that have helped us along the way with that too. It's a different thing, right? It's not for everybody. I
Yeah.
I don't have much of an ego. I don't think I do. So I'm okay with getting blasted a bit, because I've got 20 bands that yell at me, and you gotta and promoters that yell at you. But I kid, but it's I have a good relationship with most of the promoters and the bands, and but it is a different thing, because a lot of the stuff falls on you to kind of get these bands into the right venue and the right situation, and so you do have to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit earlier about the band split for 7 years,
Hmm.
and I just wanted to ask you a bit about like how did everything come to a head, and what did you do in the 7 years off?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a tough one. Things were going really well for the band. We were doing well on our own. We had just toured with Rise Against. We had done a bunch of festival stuff, and we were thinking about going back to Europe, I think, for our fourth time. And yeah, things kind of came to a screeching halt. I think just we did some Western Canada stuff, and it just, it wasn't going that good. And like, I think just we were doing 150, 200 shows a year
Yeah,
for years and years. I think everybody just said, fuck it. Like, just
yeah,
didn't want to do it. Didn't want to be in a van with each other anymore. We couldn't communicate. It was just silence and just anger. And so it was a good time to quit. And which is kind of, funny, because we were probably at the highest point of where we were in our band's career at that point.
yeah.
And then we split up for 7 years, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was working on houses. I was stuccoing houses there and feeling miserable. And then I started This Is a Standoff with my friend John. And then This Is a Standoff went on to put on 3 records, and we was just going to be for fun. We ended up touring 35 countries, and there's a pattern here. Like I just, but yeah, so that's what I did, during that time. This Is a Standoff, and This Is a Standoff. Yeah, like I said, put out 3 records, and then just as kind of things were winding down there, then Belvedere came back with their reunion. I never quit, just kept going.
Excellent. Yeah, I think now that people have had lockdown, they can maybe relate to a band situation more because just being in a house with a bunch of people that you love for too long, you end up just going off into your own corners and like just
Yeah.
not really communicating as well. So it isn't the easiest thing in the world, is it? Like being friends, being creative people, and also just like working together so much.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you put your whole life on hold too, right? Like I think I was 27 when we split up, and so the other guys were maybe a year or two younger, and I think everybody, you just put everything on hold. You're gone. Nobody's making any money. You're sleeping on people's couches still when you go home. Some of the guys were, and as they're starting to have more serious relationships, you're kind of questioning, well, why am I away from these people if I'm not even enjoying what I'm doing together with these guys? I think that's just kind of what happened.
Yeah, definitely. Even like I mean, if you're a kid and you have a dream and you just like for myself, I was like a drummer since I was like 7 years old. And
Hmm.
then when you get to like, I'm like 28 now, I'm like, what, where did that time go? I was like, so,
Yeah,
I mean, Paul McCartney was much more successful than me by this age. Like, what the
I know.
hell?
I know. I think that too. Well, I mean, like I'm 44 now, and you kind of like I hit these kind of age sort of milestones. You hit 30, you're like, oh, how much longer am I going to do this? And you hit 40, you're like, oh my God, how much longer am I going to do this?
Yeah.
I love playing music and I love playing live, and I love the Tetris of putting it all together. I like the booking, I like the relationship building. That hasn't gotten old to me, and I guess if it does, then I'll probably quit. But
Yeah.
it is a huge love of mine, to be able to do all that kind of stuff. And you've done, yeah, like I think you've done some touring there as well too. I think I saw you did some stuff in Southeast Asia and all over Europe, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what
Yeah,
it's like to be away, and sometimes it can be kind of grueling.
yeah, it was cool. When I was in Vietnam, I met DOA out there. They played
Mm.
a show and it got stopped by the police. That was crazy. So hindsight is in six. Why is that so hard for me to say?
That's why we do it. You can't just make easy titles. We have these 5-word, 6-syllable albums.
Lots of
So
S's.
yeah, so people can mess it up.
Cool. Hindsight is the Sixth Sense was
There you
recorded
go.
at Echo Base Studio in Calgary. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about Casey Lewis producing and, you know, all of that process.
Yeah, so Casey's the drummer in our band, and he's had Echo Bass for I think close to 20 years now. And I've done a lot of tracking there before. We tracked the last record there as well, and two This Is a Standoff albums. I've done an acoustic record there. Not only is Casey the drummer of my band, but he's also somebody who I collaborate with quite a bit. And yeah, I like singing. I like singing along with him and having him critique and build things together. So it's a
Wicked.
nice little studio, and it's no pressure, and it's nice to know that if you screw up, you can take your time and get it right.
Yeah. Okay. And I just wanted to ask you about the story of the blind people with the elephant that like inspired your new song.
Oh, Elephant March. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an old parable. But I saw. So basically, Elephant March was the working title for the song, and I started looking at old poems of elephants, and I always thought that was kind of a cool. I'll have to bring it up here. Well, basically, the way it goes, like in the breakdown of this song, it feels very much like a tree. It feels very much like a spear. I always thought that was cool that you'd have sort of 4 blind people touching something, not knowing what it is, and having different interpretations of it. And it just made me think a lot about writing the song itself, and that served as sort of the breakdown. That's kind of where I recited some of the things that were in that poem. I guess the biggest thing is that what I was trying to convey is that we have so many divisions right now
Yeah.
in politics and people, and ultimately we're all just trying to find our way through things, and we all sort of interpret things differently, but I think ultimately we're all sort of going after the same things, we're all touching the same things, and so I think there is a little bit of hope in that song, even though it is it is another shot at the ruling class crushing us all together. At least we're all being crushed together, and so yeah, sometimes these songs can be a bit of a collection of thoughts, but that is where I was going with it.
Wicked, man. Yeah, that's really cool. It's good to like get some poetical insight and like find out about your inspirations in that sense instead of just like I like Fugazi or like, do you know what I mean? Some like
A
there's
lot
quite a
of
lot of
my
depth.
a lot of my songs kind of get written between midnight and 4 o'clock in the morning. I like kind of
Oh,
coming
cool.
up with ideas then. I don't think straight usually at that time, and sometimes that can be reflected in the song. Sometimes I'm very direct about what I write, and sometimes it is a little bit more obscure and abstract, and sometimes it's a collection of thoughts that it's more of a feeling than just a certain topic, and let me just hammer in how much I love this person. Like I just don't do that, so um it definitely sometimes you need to listen to the song a few times to really get what I'm saying.
Wicked. All right, cool, man. Okay, well, I'll let you go, but where can people get this? Um, so the album's out on May the 14th. Can they pre-order it now?
Yeah, you can, from Lockjaw Records in the UK,
Cool.
and Thousand Islands Records for North America. They're out of Quebec. And hopefully you'll be seeing us soon here on tour, either the tail
Yeah.
end of this year or the beginning of next year. So hopefully if you don't get it from the labels, get it from us when we see you.
Yeah, definitely. And we're looking forward to you guys coming over to the UK and Europe. And are there any like new bits of merch that you want to tell us about? You got some t-shirts and stuff?
Yeah, we got a couple new designs there with the pre-sale of the record, and I'm sure we'll end up printing them ourselves and taking them taking them with us. I don't know. I kind of lose track of the merch. We've got a lot of designs that I'm slowly trying to go through, but yeah.
Okay, there's one last question. I'm really sorry, I forgot to ask it about the artwork for the album. So it's like a really artistic picture of like a beautiful woman. She's got no eyes, and then there's eyes all around her. Can you like tell us about that?
Yeah, that was done by our friend Heather, who is a sort of a world-renowned tattoo artist and an artist in general. And we were really lucky that she was into doing that. And so we gave her the title, we gave her some lyrics, and she sort of come up with that. And I like that there's some little Easter eggs in there. Like the flower that she's holding is an iris, and so of course the sort of double meaning there. And yeah, it just turned out really well. And we didn't really have a lot to go on. We didn't really give her a lot to go on, but we knew that whatever she was going to make was going to be really beautiful. And we didn't really want to do this sort of cartoony illustration that we'd done before in some of our records. We wanted to do something that was a little bit different, and because it is a bit of a different album for us. And I think she knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, man, it's really cool. All right, awesome.
Thanks.
Well, all right, mate. Take care. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Paula. See you later.
Hey guys, DJ Paula Frost here from Way Out Radio, the one and only punk and reggae station, broadcasting every week. Go to wayoutradio.com for more. So I just want to tell you guys about the brand new fan club we've just launched. It's absolutely amazing. You can choose from contributing £5, £10 or £20 per month to keep the station alive, pay our guests handsomely, and keep music money in the musician's pocket and in the punk world and in the reggae world. So find out more about that at wayoutradio.com. Thank you very much.